Dear friends, distinguished guests, thank you very much for being here in Greek House Davos for the third day. Our third day during the World Economic Forum Annual Meeting 2023. We are very happy to have with us today in this session to start with the Minister of Finance of the Hellenic Republic, Mr. Christos Staikouras. Until we wait for the Minister to come, well, it has... Well, it has been 2022, I think we will all agree, was not the most easy year for any one of us, not even for the global economy, but I'm sure that the Minister can elaborate more on what will happen in 2023, what we should expect, which are the prospects of Greece, and we expect to have an optimistic, hopefully, message from you. Thank you so much.
A realistic one. So first of all, I would like to welcome you in the Greek House in this extremely interesting time, however, with heightened uncertainty and strong downside risks to the World Economic Forum. It is noteworthy that, according to the IMF and the World Bank, 1/3 of the countries globally are estimated to present at least 2 consecutive quarters of contraction. Thus, in these turbulent periods, reinforcing the resilience and competitiveness of our economies is a major challenge. And in this field, Greece has succeeded. We have succeeded collectively. Just to give you an intuition, first of all, we continue outperforming growth expectations. We expect 5.6% growth for 2022. Indeed, according to the forecast of the European Commission, Greece is projected to grow at twice the European average in 2022 and 3 times higher than the European average in 2023. The second issue has to do with the quality of growth. GDP quality improves by strengthening components of investments and exports. This is why we're here. This year, to be honest, in 2022, it is estimated that FDIs, foreign direct investments, will record for the second consecutive year a new historical performance. According once again to the European Commission, Greece is ranked first in terms of expected investments increase for the period 2022-2024. At the same time, Greek exports, as a percentage of GDP, are now higher than those of Italy, Spain, and France. In addition, the export base is significantly diversified, registering an impressive increase in the export of high-tech goods, I will repeat it, in high-tech goods, which are now approaching the percentages of highly industrialized countries, such as Germany. It is noted that based on World Bank data, Greece had 6 categories of goods whose exports exceeded 1% of GDP back in 2021, while before the outset of the Greek debt crisis, it had just 1, petroleum products. The third issue has to do with the labor market. Labor market developments have been positive. Unemployment continues its decline, being at its lowest level since 2010. Employment increases by double the size of inactivity reduction, and the reduction in the employment rate between youth and women is more pronounced than the reduction in the headline unemployment rate. The fourth issue has to do with the banking sector. The banking sector has made marked progress. The NPL ratio has been reduced from 44% of total loans back in June 2019 to single-digit figures in the third quarter of 2022. Over the same time, deposits have increased by 35%. This progress is restoring banks' balance sheets gradually and allows credit institutions to increase finance to the real economy, as manifested by the accelerated credit growth rate in 2021 and 2022. Fifth, public finances. Public finances have resumed their improved trajectory. We expect that primary deficit will shrink to less than 1.5% of GDP back in 2022 from 5% of GDP last year. Maybe the final result will be much better. According to the European Commission, this is the most pronounced fiscal consolidation among all EU member states. Moreover, we project primary surpluses from 2023 onwards. This significant fiscal progress is based, among others, on a significant increase in revenues, mainly due to growth, as well as to the reduction of tax evasion as a result of the reduction of taxes and social security contributions. Indeed, according to a recent EU report published 2 weeks ago, Greece recorded the fourth largest VAT compliance gap reduction in the European Union in 2020, significantly limiting its revenue losses. These findings prove that our government's efforts to combat tax evasion, to intensify controls, and to promote electronic transactions, combined with a significant reduction in taxes, are bearing fruits. 6. Public debt. Public debt is on a record level reduction path. Indeed, the public debt to GDP ratio is projected to fall by 50 percentage points, 50 percentage points, within a 3-year period, the largest among all EU member states since 2019, falling below 160% of GDP in 2023. Markets seem to note this improvement, as was proved yesterday, but also, according to the SDM, was one of the few, if not the only, euro area country where credit default swaps recorded a decline over the period June to November 2022. And finally, we have completed a number of important reforms to digitalize public administration, to reorganize the pension system, to simplify the framework for investment licensing, to provide a modern corporate governance regime, to establish tax incentives in order to attract investors, pensioners, and family offices, to reverse the brain drain the country sustained in the previous decade, boost research and innovation, and increase the size of firms. Moreover, over the last 3 years, Greece has recorded a notable increase in institutional performance, including governance effectiveness and perceived corruption, as measured by established international metrics. Overall, the Greek economy, as confirmed by the historical first post-program surveillance report published recently by the European Commission, continues delivering. However, at the European level, high energy price pressures, the erosion of households' purchasing power, a weaker external environment, and tighter monetary conditions are taking center stage heading into 2023. Moreover, public debt, as I mentioned before, in Greece, is sustainable and in a declining trajectory, but remains high. The country, as I mentioned before, has exited the enhanced surveillance mechanism, but has not yet attained the investment state status. Non-performing loans in banks' portfolios, as I mentioned before, fell significantly, but private debt remains one of the biggest problems for households and enterprises, and we continue to navigate through turbulent international geopolitical waters. Thus, it is of utmost importance to continue implementing a growth-friendly, fiscally prudent, and reform-oriented economic strategy based on 7 pillars. The 7th pillar is to implement targeted measures in order to tackle the economic effects of multi-level crises, especially for the most vulnerable part of the society. The second one has to do with the implementation of a credible and prudent fiscal policy. This, along with optimal utilization of available resources, as we did yesterday with the issuance of a 10-year bond, is the main weapon against uncertainty and volatility, as well as a roadmap to achieve investment-grade status. Third priority, enhancing liquidity in the real economy through the deployment of the public investment budget and the full and timely implementation of the Recovery and Resilience Plan. Indeed, PIB spending will rise to record levels this year, in 2023. Fourth priority, implementing ambitious structural reforms, including the primary healthcare reform, the codification of the labour legislation, and the completion of the asset development plan. Fifth priority, making a stronger and more resilient financial system through, among others, the de-investment of the state from the banking sector. This is extremely important in bank-based countries, such as Greece, as it is a basic condition for sustainable development, for businesses and households to have access to finance and for the efficient distribution of financial resources. The government has been responding decisively to the external challenges that the banking system has been facing in recent years. Additionally, we legislated the establishment of a public credit bureau and of a central credit registry, as well as the implementation of a national strategy for private debt management in order to prevent future private debt build-up and enhance the secondary NPL market. As a result of the prudent, reform-oriented economic policy, the credibility of the government, and policies followed by credit institutions, Greek banks post increasing profits, the stock of non-performing loans has been drastically reduced, the outstanding amount of financing of Greek banks by the Euro system remains steady, the deposit base, as I mentioned before, was strengthened, and credit expansion follows an upward trend. However, challenges lie ahead. The responsibility of financial institutions is significant. They should be taken on the principle of burden sharing. 6. Preserving the price signal to reduce energy consumption and incentivizing investments in energy efficiency, future-proof energy infrastructure, including interconnections, storage, and innovative renewable technologies. Among others, we have enhanced the wind and solar energy penetration in the energy mix. We proceed with the newly IGB infrastructure that establishes natural gas connection between Greece and Bulgaria. We have expanded the capacity of the TLNG terminal in Revithousa. We developed the first natural gas storage and regasification unit in Alexandroupoli. We are putting forward a cable to carry to Greece green electricity produced in Egypt and Africa. And finally, 7th priority, as we did yesterday at the ECOFIN meeting, actively participating in the initiatives for the new European economic landscape. We support the completion of the banking union, the deepening of the capital markets union, and the review of the economic governance framework. As far as the latter is concerned, given the increase in public debt ratios over the last couple of years, a reinstatement of the present fiscal rules makes little economic sense and would not be credible with markets. The revised fiscal framework should ensure, among others, that debt reduction paths are not front-loaded in the aftermath of the pandemic crisis, fiscal policy is counter-cyclical, and productive investments, among other defense expenditure, are protected. To conclude, it is evident that despite difficulties and international volatility, Greece has turned the page. The country is efficiently implementing reforms and coherent policies which provide the impetus to form a more resilient and inclusive economic landscape, achieving high and sustainable growth, creating many jobs, and enhancing social cohesion. We are determined to continue along the same path in the second 4-year period as a government. Thank you.